Nate and I were childhood friends, practically inseparable since we were in diapers. His girlfriend hated it. They constantly fought because of me, playing out this endless drama of breaking up and getting back together, her running away, and him chasing after her. It wasn't until a group dinner that she decided to call me out in front of everyone. Chloe, how about I set you up with someone? So you stop being the third wheel. The room went dead silent. I glanced at the man sitting next to Nate, his best friend, Julian. Then I smiled and shook my head. No thanks. I already have a boyfriend. The next second, Nate's face went dark. His hand clenched around his wine glass until it shattered. Nate and Sarah got back together. Again. When I heard the news, I felt absolutely nothing. Penny was texting me the gossip with her usual enthusiasm. Penny, they were broken up for a whole 3 months this time. A new record. Penny, apparently Sarah ran off to Paris in a huff, and Nate actually flew out there to win her back. Penny, 2 years, 5 breakups. Do they ever get tired? I laughed but didn't reply. Penny, bet you anything Nate's gonna be blowing up the group chat about a celebratory dinner? Penny, you going? I sent a sticker of a cat saying no way. Me, pass. I have to practice. The concerto competition is next month. Penny, fair enough. I'm going though. Gotta see the train wreck in person. I'll report back with tea. Me, deal. Good luck. I put my phone down and picked up my violin. About 30 minutes later, I checked my phone again. Penny had sent another message. She seemed hesitant this time. Penny, by the way, do you know why they broke up last time? Me, no clue. Penny replied instantly. Penny, rumor has it, Sarah found out Nate's phone passcode. It was your birthday. On Friday, the dormant group chat exploded. Just as predicted, Nate announced that he and Sarah were back together, and he was treating everyone to dinner at our usual spot, the Rusty Anchor. The responses were a mix of congratulations and roasting. Congrats, bro. Again. Nate, you're slipping. Took you way too long this time. Is there a punch card for these back-together dinners? Do we get a free sub eventually? I was typing out an excuse to decline when Sarah tagged me directly. Sarah. At Chloe, you have to come. Me. Sorry, I'm really busy with rehearsals. Sarah. Oh, come on, it's just dinner. Sarah. I know I've misunderstood your relationship with Nate in the past, and I probably made things awkward for you. Sarah. I just want to apologize in person. Please. The chat went dead silent. No one typed a thing. I gripped my phone, annoyance bubbling up in my chest. After a moment, I typed, fine. See you there. By the time I arrived, the private room was already buzzing. When I pushed the door open, the chatter stopped for a second. Nate was sitting at the head of the table. When he saw me, the tension in his forehead visibly relaxed. Took you long enough, he said, patting the empty chair next to him. Sit here. Sarah's smile faltered for a microsecond, but she recovered quickly, looping her arm through Nate's in a clear, possessive gesture. Chloe, you made it. We were waiting for you. Sorry, traffic was a nightmare. Nate's eyes were glued to me as I spoke. I ignored him and walked straight past the empty seat to the corner where Penny was waving frantically. As soon as I sat down, Sarah walked over with a glass of wine. Chloe, I'm so glad you came. I know I used to get jealous and misunderstand things between you and Nate. I made a scene more than once, and frankly, it was embarrassing. I'm sure it was annoying for you too. So I wanted to say sorry. I hope you don't hold it against me. She stood over me, looking down with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. But don't worry, it won't happen again. Nate promised me. He explained that even though you guys grew up together, he just sees you as a little sister. That's all it is, brotherly concern. And you used to follow him around everywhere, because you saw him as a big brother too, right? The room went quiet again. Everyone was suddenly very interested in their silverware or napkins. Nate was staring at me, waiting for my answer. Penny rolled her eyes and opened her mouth to snap back, but I put a hand on her arm to stop her. I picked up the wine glass in front of me, stood up, and looked Sarah dead in the eye. I'm glad we cleared that up. Apology accepted, I said with a polite smile. Nate's right. We're just neighbors. Don't waste energy misunderstanding him anymore. It's bad for the relationship. I raised my glass to her. Cheers. Wishing you guys a lifetime of happiness. I downed the drink. Thud. Nate slammed his glass onto the table, his face cold. He looked annoyed, but he kept his voice controlled. You can't handle alcohol. Put it down. Sarah's face went pale. Her knuckles turned white around the stem of her glass. Because Nate wasn't talking to her. He was talking to me. I met Nate when we were 8. Our families lived next door. In elementary school, I started learning the violin. Nate would stand in his yard covering his ears, yelling, Chloe, are you killing a cat in there? In middle school, he tutored me in math, tapping my forehead with his pen when I zoned out. Chloe, focus. Are you trying to fail? In high school, I tripped during track and field. He carried me to the nurse's office on his back, his voice shaking. Chloe, does it hurt? Say something. And when my parents died in a car accident my junior year, he held my hand at the funeral, telling me over and over, Chloe, don't be scared. I'm here. 3 always be here. We were the childhood sweethearts everyone rooted for. We were in every chapter of each other's lives. I thought he meant it when he said he'd always be there. Until Sarah joined our orchestra class. Nate started talking about her constantly. He said, Chloe, don't you think Sarah looks a little like you? How? She plays the violin just as badly as you used to. He said, Chloe, Sarah's pretty cool. Can you get her number for me? Then he said, Chloe, Sarah and I are dating. The room was painfully quiet. Most of the people there were Nate's friends, not mine. I spent my time practicing or studying, so I didn't hang out with his crowd much. Sarah, on the other hand, had integrated herself perfectly into his social circle. Nate's comment hung in the air, making everyone exchange awkward glances. Some people were looking at me with disdain, like I was the villain in a bad rom-com, the clingy childhood friend trying to sabotage the main couple. I fought the urge to flip the table. Instead, I smiled, polite and distant. It's just one glass. I'll be fine. Nate's expression darkened. He strode over, snatched the empty glass from my hand, practically shoving Sarah aside in the process. Chloe, are you trying to be tough? You know you get hives when you drink. Why do it? I felt a surge of irritation. None of your business. Nate opened his mouth to argue, but the door swung open. A man in a long black trench coat stood in the doorway, his tall frame blocking the light from the hall. His dark eyes swept the room, cold and imposing. The temperature seemed to drop a few degrees. His gaze landed on me for 2 seconds, then moved on. The tension in the room broke. Julian. Nate sounded surprised. I thought you said you couldn't make it? Julian walked in with long strides and took the seat directly across from me. Change of plans. Picking someone up. Picking someone up? Someone asked, looking at the empty doorway. Where are they? Julian's lips curved slightly. He glanced at me, barely noticeable. No rush. I looked down at my plate, feeling guilty, for no reason. Great. Now everyone's here, Sarah chirped, trying to salvage the mood. She pulled Nate back to his seat and raised her glass again. Since we're all together, we should do a toast. Oh right, I forgot. Chloe can't drink. She gave an exaggerated apologetic smile, then her eyes widened like she just had a brilliant idea. Chloe, how about I introduce you to someone? If you get a boyfriend, he can drink for you. That way, Nate won't have to worry about you all the time. She stared at me, her eyes full of challenge. Everyone heard the sarcasm in her voice. In the dead silence, I looked up. My eyes drifted past Nate to the man lounging in the chair next to him, Julian. No thanks, I said, smiling. I already have a boyfriend. Crack. Nate's face was thunderous. The veins in his hand bulged as the wine glass in his grip shattered. Shards of glass cut into his skin, blood mixing with red. Wine on his palm. Chloe, Nate gritted out. What did you say? Sarah screamed and called for a waiter to bring a first aid kit. Nate ignored the blood. He stared at me like he wanted to dissect my brain. Say that again. I enunciated every word. I said, I already have a boyfriend. Yeah right, someone scoffed. Everyone knows you've been in love with Nate for years. Chloe, Sarah was just trying to be nice. You don't have to make up a fake boyfriend just to reject her. Is she saying that just to make Nate jealous? The crowd nodded, convinced they had cracked the code. Nate's expression softened slightly. He sighed, his tone turning patronizing. Chloe, stop saying things just to get a reaction. I wanted to scream. Believe what you want. But I drank that wine to show that the past is the past. From now on, I don't want to hear any rumors that you guys broke up because of me. If we're still friends, leave me out of your drama. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. At the threshold, I stopped. I turned around. Julian, do you mind giving me a ride? Gasps filled the room. Everyone's eyes popped out of their heads. Nate spun around. Chloe, who are you asking? The man sitting next to him stood up slowly, a lazy smile playing on his lips. Not at all. Nate tried to lunge after me, but Sarah held him back. He clenched his fist, driving the glass shards deeper into his flesh. His voice shook. Chloe, don't you dare walk out that door. I didn't look back. I walked out. The car was warm. I sat in the passenger seat, staring at my lap, not sure what to say. My phone kept buzzing. Nate calling, over and over. It was annoying, so I silenced it. Suddenly, Julian leaned over. His arm stretched across me to grab the seatbelt. He clicked it into place but didn't pull back immediately. He was close. I could smell cedarwood and something cool, like winter air. I felt his gaze on my neck, then moving down to my arms, inspecting them. Feeling okay? His voice was deep, vibrating in the small space. I realized he was checking for hives. I shook my head. I'm fine. It was 2 sips of red wine. I won't die. He nodded and started the car. Cool night air drifted in through the vents, flushing the heat from my cheeks. When I first heard about Julian, I thought he'd be loud and charismatic. But after meeting him a few times, I realized I was wrong. He was quiet, cold, and had this air of indifference that kept everyone at arm's length. He rarely showed up to gatherings, and when he did, he usually left early. Nate said Julian was a genius born with a silver spoon, good at everything, won every award imaginable. I never understood how an ice prince like him ended up best friends with Nate. From high school through college, Julian and I barely spoke. Until last month. The orchestra club had a party. I mistook a bottle of fruit wine for juice and down the whole thing. When the hives started showing up, everyone panicked and tried to drag me to the hospital. We stumbled out of the restaurant and ran straight into Julian. He put me in his car and floored it. The hives weren't actually dangerous, just itchy and ugly. The dangerous part was that I turned into a violent drunk. I grabbed Julian by the neck and bit him. Hard. 3 times. After biting him, I apparently smacked my lips and said, not bad. Unfortunately, I remembered every single second of it the next morning. I basically begged for forgiveness and swore I'd make it up to him. Julian had just looked at me, eyes dancing with amusement, red teeth marks still visible on his neck. Make it up to me how? My brain short-circuited. I didn't know if I should take responsibility or let him bite me back. Can I think about it? Sure. After that, I ran into Julian everywhere. The library, the track, the cafeteria. He even walked past the practice room window while I waffling. I suspected he was doing it on purpose. By the 10th time he sat at my table during lunch, I couldn't take it anymore. Julian, are you in a hurry? I haven't decided yet. He just hummed a low note and moved the sweet and sour pork, my favorite, from his tray to my bowl. Take your time, he said softly. I'm not rushing you. We pulled up to my apartment building. Julian walked me to my door. I fumbled with my keys, my heart waging a war against my brain. Get some sleep. If you feel sick, call me immediately. Okay. He looked at me for a moment. Go inside. I gripped the door handle and looked up at him. Adrenaline spiked in my veins. Julian. That thing about having a boyfriend, it was a lie. I know, but it could be true. Julian blinked. Then he chuckled, the sound low and rich. His sharp features softened. How so? I want to take responsibility. Will you be my boyfriend? My palms were sweating. Before he could answer, I blurted out. You don't have to answer now. You can think about it too. I can wait. Bye. Good night. I slammed the door shut. Bam. My heart was trying to escape my ribcage. I leaned against the door, exhaling a long, shaky breath. I hadn't even turned on the lights. It was pitch black. My phone screen lit up. Julian calling. Wasn't he just outside? Confused, I answered. His voice was rough, like he was holding something back. Open the door. He whispered. I want to kiss you. Right now. I couldn't breathe. The moment I unlocked the door, Julian pushed his way in, closing it behind him with a click. In the dark, his hands found my waist. He pulled me against his tall frame, and then his lips were on mine. It wasn't gentle. It was overwhelming. My brain turned to mush. I couldn't even process how we got from 0 to 100 this fast. He kissed me like he was starving, like he'd been holding back for years. I put my hands on his shoulders, trying to steady myself, but the air was getting thin. Julian. I was literally going to suffocate. He cupped the back of my head and bit my lip. Hard. I gasped in pain. He stopped then, pulling back just an inch, but his arms were still locked around me like iron bands. He wasn't doing much better. In the silence of the dark hallway, we stood forehead to forehead, gasping for air, our breaths mingling. After a moment, I felt his gaze burning on my face. He raised a hand, his thumb brushing over my lip, tracing the spot he had just bitten. Now we're even, he whispered.